With one click, he unlocks a summoning system where the banger AI system greets him, followed by a quick tutorial. However, when he activates the system, a juicy red vampire is summoned, who immediately quenches her thirst. So turns out he can summon a bunch of hot and powerful warriors to stop the Demon King Agars from destroying the world. And this concludes the intro. Help us get 300 likes, and let's begin. Amidst towering pillars of sharp crystals like stones and shrouded in fog, a booming voice questions why its dominance is being rejected. The voice asks the foolish humans why they are rejecting its offer of a world without suffering. The voice, emanating from a massive shadowy creature hovering above the ground, questions why they refuse to embrace the despair-free world it offers. The man, standing resolute, declares that the future belongs to humanity, and he tells the monster that the future it stole from them will be reclaimed by their own hands. The monster bellows that the future for humans only leads to destruction, and if the man doesn't understand, it shouts die, and launches its shadowy, clawed arm at him. The man draws his sword, gazing up at the clawed hand approaching him. The shadowy arm smashes into the ground, causing a massive disruption. A woman, projecting a shield on her hand, declares her vow in the name of Jean d'Arc to protect Xiaoshang from the monster's harm. The monster raises its other hand, showing frustration at the woman for interfering, and bellows for them to die together. Before the monster can launch its attack, another girl shoots an arrow at it, calling it an annoying and ugly freak. Frustrated, the monster curses and calls the humans bastards, declaring them clearly foolish. A red and dark magical attack, rebounding off the jagged stones, strikes the monster before the masked woman, its assailant, descends, confessing her past belief in humanity's hopelessness. She explains that Xiaoshang changed her mind about humans and believes that though they may be fragile, they have unlimited potential. The monster roars at the masked woman, accusing her of treachery, and as it assesses its damaged body, realizing it needs healing. Another figure, flying above the monster, deems it noisy and tells it to shut up, attacking it with her powers. A woman, asserting it's for both Xiaoshang and herself, wields an electrically crackling energy ball, commanding the monster to vanish from the scene. The energy ball expands and engulfs her, creating numerous lightning-like crackling tendrils around it as she shouts, "Thunder strike!" Following a huge, blinding flash of light, a massive explosion occurs. The monster, its head the only visible amidst the rubble, curses and concedes defeat, issuing a warning to humans of a future more terrifying than death. Xiaoshang steps on the monster's head, dismissing its words as nonsense, and asks if villains don't die from talking too much. The girl with yellow hair reassures Xiaoshang, declaring her lifelong vow and confessing that his life holds paramount importance to her, promising unwavering support against any impending foe. Xiaoshang, deeply touched by her words, calls her name, Jean, and draws closer to her. The other three women, watching Xiaoshang and Jean, remind them that they are not invisible and comment that what Jean says is cheesy. Annoyed, Jean turns to the girl with white hair, claiming Xiaoshang is hers and asking if she has a problem. The girl with white hair tells her to get lost. The two of them start quarreling, each claiming Xiaoshang as theirs alone. Xiaoshang tells the girls to stop fighting. A piece of chalk comes flying and strikes Xiaoshang on his head, waking him from his sleep. Xiaoshang shouts, demanding to know who dared to attack him and questioning if the attacker isn't intimidated by his 40-meter-long sword. Xiaoshang realizes he is in a classroom and notices the other students looking at him, all laughing, and the teacher at the front looking really angry. The teacher, making an angry fist, scolds Xiaoshang for sleeping in her class and orders him to immediately write a 1,000-word self-criticism. Sweating and startled, Xiaoshang tries to explain to the teacher that he was busy with something very important last night. The teacher asks what could have been so important, sarcastically suggesting if it was saving the world, to which Xiaoshang asks how she knew. The teacher asks him to explain how he saved the world, to which Xiaoshang responds by saying he defeated the big demon king who was trying to change history, in a mobile game with his wives. Annoyed by Xiaoshang's response, the teacher orders him to stop playing games late at night, instructing him to write 10,000 words instead, and warns him not to go home until he finishes. It's dark outside as Xiaoshang leaves his classroom after finishing his 10,000-word self-criticism, questioning over the phone if he truly deserved the punishment. He tells the person on the other end of the phone that playing games is more interesting than learning, questioning how one can live without playing games. Acknowledging the person's mention of having a 2D wife, Xiaoshang admits that while the game mode Infinity Fantasy Universe may be cliché, it still holds appeal. Xiaoshang says he's almost reached his home and hangs up the phone. Looking at the diamonds in his game, Xiaoshang realizes he's almost depleted them, contemplates recharging despite the week of instant noodles it would entail, and ultimately decides it's worth it. From behind him, in the alley, someone calls out to Xiaoshang, claiming they finally found him and referring to him as anomaly, startling Xiaoshang. A demon woman with horns asserts that finding him wasn't simple, revealing she's been waiting for Xiaoshang for a considerable duration. Puzzled, Xiaoshang asks her if they know each other and if there's something she needs. The woman claims she is there to play with Xiaoshang. She calls her girls out, instructing them to play nicely with Xiaoshang. The girls she referred to are dinosaur-like monsters, and she explains that she has cast protective spells in the vicinity, ensuring no one will oppose them there. Xiaoshang recognizes the monsters as velociraptors from his game and is shocked to see them in the real world. The woman asks Xiaoshang if he likes them and expresses disappointment if he doesn't. She orders the raptors to kill Xiaoshang, who charge at him upon her command. Xiaoshang looks terrified and unable to move as the raptors open their mouths to attack him. There's a splatter of blood as the raptors strike Xiaoshang, and the woman expresses disappointment that Xiaoshang turned out to be a weakling. She commands the raptors to do their job well, expressing her desire for the humans not to notice them too early. She walks away as the raptors maul Xiaoshang. She stops in her tracks as a blinding light fills the alley behind her, and she is shocked, recognizing the aura. A massive streak of light ascends from the sky, and at its foot, Jean appears. Holding a sword in her hands, Jean opens her eyes and states that she appeared at Xiaoshang's command to become his protective shield. Sweating, Xiaoshang is plagued by nightmares of the events involving the Demon King in the alley. He abruptly wakes up, breathing heavily. Massaging his head, he expresses concern over the intense headache, attributing it to the criticism he wrote the previous day. Surprised, Xiaoshang hears a voice asking if he's awake. Turning, he sees Jean seated at the end of his bed. He questions why she's there, to which she replies that he summoned her the previous night. Visibly confused, Xiaoshang reacts to the revelation of summoning her. Suddenly, he recalls the events from the alley the night before. Remembering, he recounts how a card-drawing interface appeared as the raptors closed in on him, pressing a button that summoned a beam of light from the sky, causing him to black out after seeing Jean in the light. Xiaoshang asks Jean if she was truly summoned from the game, prompting her surprised inquiry about what a game is. Realizing Jean doesn't know about the game, Xiaoshang asks her where she came from. Jean explains that a voice told her the commander was in trouble, so she responded to the summons, prompting Xiaoshang to ask if she's referring to the dangerously dressed lady as the trouble. He admits that the shameless outfit she was wearing is quite dangerous. Jean warns Xiaoshang not to be deceived by the woman's outfit, revealing she sensed a demonic aura from her, and explains her hometown, the kingdom of Saint Francil, was invaded by her kind. She recounts how her father, the rural lord of the empire, provided a comfortable life for her, but the invasion of demons changed everything. Jean explains how the demons captured the capital, killing the king, and how even her hometown was ravaged by the flames of war. Hearing Jean's story, Xiaoshang recognizes it as similar to the background introductions of characters in a game. Jean tells Xiaoshang that after her hometown was destroyed, she heard the voice of the Lord telling her to save the country. She explains that afterward, she gained the approval of the crown prince and the bishop, was granted command of the army, and despite continuous victories on the battlefield, she was unable to defeat the demon residing in the capital. Jean warns Xiaoshang not to underestimate the demons and their minions, stating that anyone who does so will pay a price. As Xiaoshang asks if she knows about the demon that attacked him last night, Jean informs Xiaoshang that the demon's name is Morrigan, a subordinate of the Demoness Queen and one of the 12 pairs of demons. Stepping down from the bed, Jean explains that Morrigan's main abilities are enchantment and shapeshifting, and she tells Xiaoshang that the raptors that attacked him last night were the result of Morrigan's shapeshifting. Jean warns Xiaoshang to be careful, saying Morrigan is the most cunning subordinate of the Demoness Queen, while Xiaoshang asks her if she knows what an anomaly is. Staring out of the glass window, Jean replies that she is not sure about that and says she only knows that it seems to be related to the invasion mechanism of the demons. Jean mutters that's great, causing Xiaoshang to ask her what's great. With a smile, Jean gazes at the city and tells Xiaoshang that his world, a peaceful one, is great. Xiaoshang asks if Jean would like to go out and see the city properly, to which Jean, looking excited, asks if she really can. Xiaoshang, turning red and forcing a cough, expresses concern that Jean's outfit might not be suitable for going out. Out in the streets, Jean observes the bustling city with impressed eyes. Jean turns to Xiaoshang and asks where they are, inquiring about the location of the king's palace and if they will be visiting the king. Xiaoshang explains to Jean that they are at a market, a place where people buy and sell things, prompting Jean to remark that the place is larger than the one in her world, assuming things must be expensive. With a smile, Xiaoshang tells Jean he'll take her to get some clothes, to which Jean, looking happy, reveals she hasn't bought any in so many years. Xiaoshang assures Jean that she can buy whatever she wants, thinking to himself that he should be generous as he is spending money on his wife for the first time. 30 minutes later, inside a clothing store, Jean peeks out from the changing area, having put on new clothes, looking a bit uncomfortable as Xiaoshang tells her to come out. Looking embarrassed in her new outfit, Jean asks Xiaoshang if it looks a bit awkward, to which Xiaoshang assures her it fits well. Jean puts on another new outfit and asks Xiaoshang how she looks in it, only to realize Xiaoshang is bleeding from his nose. He brushes it off, urging her to continue trying on new clothes. Trying yet another outfit, Jean asks Xiaoshang how she looks, but notices smoke coming from his head. Concerned, she asks if he's okay, but Xiaoshang insists it's nothing. Jean tries yet another outfit and asks Xiaoshang if he likes it. However, Xiaoshang passes out upon seeing her. Jean asks Xiaoshang if he's alright and tells him to wake up as Xiaoshang lies stunned on his back. Xiaoshang and Jeannie sit on a park bench, a spread of food between them, enjoying the sunset. Xiaoshang, still surprised by the appearance of the waifu from the mobile game, stares at the summoning system, wondering what it is. Full of curiosity, he decides to give it another click. Suddenly pulled into a different place, Xiaoshang is confused and asks what is going on. A small girl with cat-like ears welcomes Xiaoshang to the ultimate gacha system, explaining he is currently in his exclusive system space, prompting him to ask who she is. The cat lady introduces herself as the exclusive AI system of Oni-chan, Alice01, suggesting Xiaoshang calls her Alice. Xiaoshang questions why she is referring to him as Oni-chan, to which Alice responds, implying that a shut-in person like him is supposed to love that kind of thing, and asks if he is excited being called that by her. Xiaoshang denies it, and Alice explains that the system around him is similar to the mobile games he is familiar with, where he can use gacha to obtain rewards like weapons, items, skills, and characters. With a cunning smile, Alice remarks that Xiaoshang is a small fry who can't possibly get rare characters, angering him with steam bellowing from his head. Alice challenges Xiaoshang to try a free 10 roll, and despite still being angry, he declares he will definitely pull an SSR from the free roll and show her his worth. Determined, Xiaoshang prepares to roll, declaring he will show Alice the power of the Gacha King. The first roll yields an N-card stone that falls on Xiaoshang's head, which he deems useless but quite heavy. Alice laughs, deeming the first roll a bad one, pitying Xiaoshang and mocking him. Frustrated, Xiaoshang reassures himself it's fine and he still has 9 more rolls to go, while Alice urges him to continue. After a few minutes, Xiaoshang's face is bruised, and his head has bulges as he remains speechless. Alice taunts Xiaoshang, suggesting his luck is terrible. In despair, Xiaoshang remarks that the drop rate in that gacha pool is too low and declares he will recharge and pull another 100. Alice reminds him that the ultimate gacha system can't be recharged directly. Alice informs Xiaoshang that monsters from another world will appear one after another in his city, and if he defeats them and obtains dimensional shards, he will be able to pull the gacha. Xiaoshang comprehends Alice's explanation and realizes he will have to fight monsters to acquire materials. Alice elaborates that 1 shard is needed for 1 draw, and 10 shards are required for a 10 roll, guaranteeing an SR rate item, which could be a character or equipment. Confirming that the mechanism is familiar to him, Xiaoshang acknowledges his understanding. Xiaoshang is brought back to reality, muttering that Alice is detestable, prompting Jeannie to inquire if he has met Alice, having overheard him speak the name. Surprised, Xiaoshang asks Jeannie if she knows about that system, to which Jeannie confirms, mentioning it was what summoned her to help Xiaoshang. Reflecting on Jeannie's clear recollection of him and their shared experiences fighting alongside each other in the game world, Xiaoshang wonders if there are more than one anomaly. He ponders if others can also summon game characters and questions whether it's from the same game or different ones. Jeannie compliments the hamburger as a divine gift, prompting Xiaoshang to ask if she has never eaten it before, considering it the least technical food. Promising to take her to the food street, Xiaoshang delights Jeannie, who eagerly asks if all the delicious foods are available there. With a small smile, Xiaoshang declares he will show Jeannie what it means to be the Empire of Gourmet. Jeannie inquires if it won't be expensive, to which he confidently responds it will be very cheap, claiming it's a minor matter for him. As Jeannie and Xiaoshang discuss their plans for the food street, a woman emerges from behind a nearby tree. Holding 2 cards engulfed with energy, the woman declares she found them and perceives them as defenseless, throwing her 2 cards at them. Jeannie notices the incoming attack, pushing Xiaoshang away and blocking the cards. Puzzled, Xiaoshang asks Jeannie what happened, and she informs him they are under attack. Xiaoshang recognizes the woman as Jiang Yuan and calls out her name. Surprised, Jeannie asks Xiaoshang if he knows their attacker, and Xiaoshang reveals that Jiang Yuan is his class monitor. Jiang Yuan recognizes Xiaoshang as the student who loves playing mobile games, chiding him for his slow understanding, before revealing her own status as an anomaly and expressing surprise at Jeannie's intervention, prompting her to inquire about Jeannie's connection to Xiaoshang. Jeannie asserts to Jiang Yuan that she is Xiaoshang's guardian knight, stating that if Jiang Yuan wants to harm him, she'll have to step over her dead body. Xiaoshang flushes with embarrassment upon hearing Jeannie's declaration, finding it a bit awkward, but he urges her to continue. Observing Jeannie's anime-like dialogue and abilities, Jiang Yuan questions if she is summoned from another world, expressing surprise at Xiaoshang's enviable ability, and declares her intention to kill him. A child notices Xiaoshang, Genie, and Jiang Yuan from a distance, marveling at their abilities, while his mother dismisses it as nonsense, assuming they're shooting short videos. Xiaoshang suggests to Jiang Yuan that they should go somewhere less conspicuous to avoid drawing attention. They arrive at the harbor, where Xiaoshang explains that few people will be there at night, ensuring they won't be noticed. Xiaoshang questions Jiang Yuan about why she attacked him. Jiang Yuan swiftly dismisses the need for a reason for anomalies to fight, turning towards Xiaoshang and preparing to attack. Taken aback, Xiaoshang is startled as Genie shouts at him to be careful. Beneath the sea nearby, a water monster awakens, opening its huge eye. Jiang Yuan and Jean stand tall, facing each other. Jean wields a sword in one hand and a shield projection in the other, while Jiang Yuan holds cards engulfed in energy in both hands. Jiang Yuan tells Jean that she didn't expect her to have a few tricks up her sleeve and looks down on her, saying her combat power is still a bit weak. Xiaoshang, witnessing the battle, admits he didn't expect Jiang Yuan to be so powerful. Holding her own against Jean, he shows curiosity about her abilities, wondering if they are also derived from a specific game. Jean thinks Jiang Yuan and Hecate are alike, a kind of mage profession, and she charges at Jiang Yuan, claiming she needs to get closer to gain an advantage. Jean employs the technique called Holy Light Crescent Strike and swings her sword at Jiang Yuan, who blocks it with a long metal spear. Jiang Yuan asks Jean if she thought she was only capable of attacking from a distance and says she underestimates her. Jiang Yuan swipes her spear, pushing Jean backward with force, stating that when it comes to close-quarters combat, she excels. Jiang Yuan claims that casting spells only from a distance is evidence of weakness, and she would never overlook it. She summons blue flames on her other hand and tells Jean to continue the battle, declaring she is about to get serious. Xiaoshang gets lost in his thoughts, reflecting on the combination of magic and melee combat he witnessed from Jiang Yuan. Xiaoshang connects the dots, looking proud. He asks Jiang Yuan if she is playing a game called Spring and Autumn, Chronicles of Forgetfulness. He recalls that there is a handsome guy in that game who practices both magic and martial arts, and he mocks Jiang Yuan, saying a calm, serious, and beautiful class monitor like her is actually playing a cultivation game where one can pursue various handsome guys. With a cunning smile, Xiaoshang says if their teacher found out what kind of game she is playing as a class monitor, the teacher's delicate heart would shatter into pieces. Looking visibly irritated and angry, Jiang Yuan says she was thinking of going easy on Xiaoshang, but now she says she is going to crush him. Jiang Yuan goes after Xiaoshang for blood, who shouts for Jean to help him. While Jiang Yuan and Xiaoshang are busy quarreling behind, Jean's attention is grabbed by something. Jean stares down at the calm surface of the sea near the dock and is startled as something emerges from its surface. Xiaoshang notices what is happening as a huge tentacle comes down on him and Jiang Yuan. Screaming, he pushes Jiang Yuan and himself out of the way as the tentacle smashes onto the ground. A huge monster, resembling an octopus but far more terrifying, emerges from the water with many tentacles and a huge mouth. Xiaoshang questions if the monster is the same octopus creature depicted in the game, as Jiang Yuan says it might be the so-called interdimensional monster the system mentioned. Readying her card and giving a smile, Jiang Yuan says she has dealt with many mere interdimensional monsters before and asks Jean if she is interested in engaging in a match with her, to which Jean replies that is precisely her intention. Jiang Yuan uses the Taoist technique of Shangqing, the nine heavens diving thunder, as Jean summons a huge beam of holy light from the sky. Jiang Yuan electrifies the monster while Jean lunges at it, her sword ready. Both of them repeatedly attack the monster, Jiang Yuan electrifying it while Jean uses her sword to chop off its tentacles. The monster gives a big growl and slips back into the water. Jiang Yuan shows her surprise at the monster running away, and Xiaoshang questions if the monster is that weak. All three of them are startled as something attacks them from behind. Xiaoshang is hit by the attack which sends him crashing into the wall nearby as Jean calls out for him. Smaller tentacles wrap around Jiang Yuan and Jean, immobilizing them and taking them by surprise. The tentacles emerge from the water, and standing on top of the structure is Morgaine, the subordinate of the demoness Cuisin who had attacked Xiaoshang before in the alley. Xiaoshang slumps down on the ground from the attack, appearing as though he has passed out. Still bound by the tentacle, Jean turns to Xiaoshang, looking worried, and calls out to him, telling him to wake up. Xiaoshang opens his eyes, and suddenly a tentacle wraps around him, alarming him. The tentacle raises Xiaoshang from the ground and pulls him into the water, horrifying Jean. Underwater, Xiaoshang is helpless as he can't breathe and is running out of strength, as the tentacle pulls him further below. Outside, Jiang Yuan and Jean are still bound by the tentacles, and Jean looks desperate, knowing Xiaoshang needs her. Closing her eyes, Jiang Yuan's body begins to glow, harnessing the power of holy light to invoke sacrifice life, liberating her from the tentacle's grip and granting immunity to control effects and damage for 20 seconds. Jean, now free, doesn't wait a second and jumps into the water to rescue Xiaoshang, knowing she only has 20 seconds to save him. She extends her hand towards Xiaoshang, who is immobile and held captive by the tentacle. Sitting on railings at a height, Morrigan gives a satisfying smirk and, looking down, says it's getting more interesting. Inside the water, Xiaoshang seems to have passed out as Jean grabs onto his shoulder, pulls him closer, and gives him mouth-to-mouth respiration. Outside, Morrigan tsks and says it's unfortunate as the show has just begun. Having freed Xiaoshang from the tentacle's grasp and grabbed him, Jean swims upwards. A tentacle grabs onto Jean's leg, pulling her down, startling her. Concerned for Xiaoshang's safety, Jean pushes him upwards out of harm's way as the monster approaches, its mouth wide open. Jean summons her sword and, using the holy light, activates the god's holy sword technique, a second-tier skill which can be used after using the sacrifice life. With the sword in her hand glowing, Jean turns towards the monster, which is coming for her, its mouth still open wide. A huge beam of light slams down onto the monster, defeating it. The system appears and announces that the interdimensional creature Deep Diver has been defeated, giving the reward, interdimensional fragments X14. Clutching her arm and with numerous holes in her clothes, Jiang Yuan breathes a sigh of relief at her newfound freedom, attributing her misfortune to the day and urging their swift departure from the area. Xiaoshang appears behind her and addresses her as the class monitor, telling her it's not good to leave suddenly like that, startling her. Supported by Jean helping him stand, Xiaoshang smiles and tells Jiang Yuan he is back. At Xiaoshang's house, Jean is taking a bath. Xiaoshang and Jiang Yuan are sitting in the sitting room, opposite each other, Xiaoshang looking a bit nervous. Jiang Yuan shows her disappointment at Xiaoshang still not being satisfied even after getting the fragments and asks him what else he wants. With an awkward smile, Xiaoshang reminds Jiang Yuan that they are comrades and tells her he is thinking too much, assuring her he is not that kind of person. Jiang Yuan questions Xiaoshang about their camaraderie, highlighting that as long as interdimensional fragments exist, they won't truly be comrades, leading Xiaoshang to inquire further. Jiang Yuan explains to Xiaoshang that interdimensional monsters come from games, movies, novels, and other sources, and each one killed can yield a different number of interdimensional fragments. As Jiang Yuan approaches Xiaoshang, she explains that the fragments offer new skills, items, and abilities, potentially leading to greater wealth and status, prompting Xiaoshang to question if she is targeting him to eliminate potential competition. Encouraging Xiaoshang to ponder the answer himself, Jiang Yuan divulges her ambition to conquer all the anomalies. Xiaoshang tells her that her goal might be true but points out that she wasn't very decisive when attacking him, making her go red in the face. Jiang Yuan brushes off Xiaoshang's speculation as nonsense and reminds him that all anomalies are her enemies. Jiang Yuan tells Xiaoshang that other anomalies will target him later, and then he will regret being so naive. She says that it's getting late, so she decides to leave and runs out of the door, thanking Xiaoshang for the hospitality and telling him goodbye before slamming the door behind her. Xiaoshang looks confused, wondering if he said something wrong. The mobile game, Infinite Fantasy Cosmos, is set in a fantasy world of swords and magic on the continent named Europa, where various races like humans, elves, and orcs live. The Demon King, Agars, from the demon realm attempts to conquer the land favored by the goddess, and its demonic army breaks through one country after another. Players will assume the role of a hero from another world selected by the goddess to combat the Demon King, forging bonds with various charming young girls throughout their adventure. In the end, the protagonist successfully defeats the Demon King and discovers another mastermind behind the scenes, revealing the tip of the iceberg of a massive conspiracy. On his smartphone, Xiaoshang watches the announcement for the launch of the 2024 New Year edition of the game Infinite Fantasy Cosmos, which promises valuable rewards for users who log in as part of the update. Having watched the announcement, Xiaoshang admits to being invincible in the game world, but in the real world, he says he is just an ordinary person. He says he won't treat all other anomalies as enemies like Jiang Yuan, but still says he can't guarantee if they will treat him the same and decides he needs the power to protect himself from any attacker. He says he needs to increase companions through the gacha system and mentions that Jean's profession is a shield knight, with surplus defense but insufficient attack. He pulls out his phone and activates the gacha system. Jean, who is in the shower, senses something and wonders what Xiaoshang is doing outside. Xiaoshang enters the gacha and calls out to Alice to come out. Not seeing Alice around, Xiaoshang wonders why she is invisible, knowing that the system should always be on, as a hand reaches for him from behind. Alice grabs Xiaoshang and hugs him, declaring she is here and addressing him as Oni-chan, taking him by surprise. Xiaoshang notices Alice appearing larger than usual and questions her about it, to which Alice responds by explaining that she has adjusted her appearance according to his preferences. She informs Xiaoshang that according to big data records, her new appearance is the mature and elder sister style he likes. Xiaoshang questions Alice about how she knows, and she confidently explains that for an all-powerful system like her, it's easy, teasing him about his current intentions to quickly gacha out all his wives, which makes him blush in disagreement. Alice tells Xiaoshang not to deny it, saying his thoughts are written all over his face. She pulls out Jin's and Xiaoshang's attributes and draws Xiaoshang's attention to them. Xiaoshang notices he is level 1 and Jin is level 30. And the difference between their other attributes is too large. Alice tells Xiaoshang that the interdimensional fragments are not just for gacha but are also important items for increasing attributes, strengthening skills, and unlocking skins. Xiaoshang recalls the gameplay of Fantasy Cosmos, involving controlling the actions of the drawn young girls, and that the commander played by the player won't easily join the battlefield, so he thinks having lower attributes is normal. He thinks back on the emphasis given by Alice on the importance of attribute distribute and wonders if he should strengthen his own attributes to avoid being a burden to his wives. He is stuck on which to decide. Prioritize increasing companions or enhance his attributes, so he asks Alice what she thinks he should choose and asks for her opinion. Alice tells him that he might have misunderstood and tells him she meant to accumulate more interdimensional fragments and then use gacha. She tells Xiaoshang that if he keeps on doing 10 consecutive draws and gets nothing, then the value of the ultimate gacha system will be lowered. Apologizing to Alice for his bluntness, Xiaoshang expresses his fatigue from the day and announces his intention to return next time before bidding her goodbye. Returned back to reality, Xiaoshang sits down and decides he will have a chat with Jiang Yuan the next day and ask her where he can find more monsters to get fragments from. Jin peeks out from the bathroom door and calls Xiaoshang, who asks her what's wrong. Jin says the faucet has been spraying cold water all the time and says she might have broken it. He notices Xiaoshang having a nosebleed and asks him if he is okay, to which Xiaoshang says he is okay and suggests the hot water in the heater might be used up. Turning the other way, Xiaoshang tells Jin to go and change into her pajamas first, leaving her puzzled as she agrees. At night, Xiaoshang, his face scarlet red, unable to sleep, offers to sleep on the floor while Jin sleeps on the bed, prompting her to inquire why. Getting up swiftly, he tells her that's because she is a girl. Jin also gets up and tells Xiaoshang that as his guardian knight, it's her duty to stay close to him and tells him not to treat her as a girl for his own safety. Xiaoshang cuddles up in his blanket and tells her he will do as she asks if it makes her happy. The moon shines brightly overhead as Xiaoshang and Jin sleep on the bed, each on their own side, inside the house. Xiaoshang, who has his back turned to Jin, hears her mutter, calling out to him, telling him to stay by her side and not leave her. Xiaoshang blushes hearing this and turns to her, finding her deep in her sleep. He smiles at her and realizes she was sleep-talking and says she must be tired. Xiaoshang, anyway, thanks her. A voice shouts out in disagreement from a house, causing a few birds on the railings to take off. Jin bangs her fist on the table, firmly disagreeing with Xiaoshang and claiming she won't allow him to go out alone in the given situation. Xiaoshang, in his school uniform, tells Jin that he is heading for his school and can't take her along and requests her to wait at home. Jin refuses and shows her concern that Jiang Yuan might do something unfavorable to him and insists on accompanying Xiaoshang to the school. Xiaoshang sweats and realizes that judging by Jin's attitude, he won't be able to leave the house without doing something. He makes up his mind and uses the gacha, calling Alice and telling her he wants to draw a card. Alice, smirking, asks Xiaoshang if he really is sure and suggests he consider thinking it over. Xiaoshang says he doesn't need to think and orders Alice to draw the card. Alice follows his command and activates the Infinite Fantasy Universe card draw system. Xiaoshang hopes to summon the character named Tristana, an assassin whom he can use to make her hide in his shadow for protection. Xiaoshang uses his interdimensional fragments and starts the draw. The first draw gives him a useless stone, but he brushes his luck aside, saying it's just the first draw. The next 7 draws all give him useless stones as well, making him sweat and consider leaving the system in embarrassment. The 9th draw gives him a worn-out dress, but the 10th draw gives him a random companion as Alice mocks him for his bad luck. There is a huge uproar in demonic energy, and a portal-like object appears as Xiaoshang hopes it's Tristana while Jin recognizes the aura. From the portal, a woman with red hair ascends, saying she obeys the blood covenant and responding to the summon. The new woman lays her eyes on Xiaoshang and, calling him darling, she jumps on him, claiming it's nice to see him. She gets on top of Xiaoshang, and he recognizes her as Chimera, asking her how she got there. In the game, Chimera Bartoli is the daughter of the vampire prince and a human grand sorceress, with a sister named Hecate, each inheriting their parents' abilities uniquely. Hecate inherited her mother's magical abilities, while Chimera inherited her father's vampire abilities, making her the antagonist boss of the second chapter in Fantasy Universe. After the second chapter in the game, Chimera gets brainwashed and joins the character pool, later considering the protagonist her fiancé unilaterally and constantly contemplating procreation with him. Now summoned out from the game, Chimera stares down at Xiaoshang, calling him darling, and tells him his blood scent makes her excited. She asks if he is fond of her. Awkwardly, Xiaoshang says yes, and looking excited, Chimera suggests they create the crystallization of love now and reaches down to kiss him. Jean, who is still nearby, slams the table and asks Chimera what she is doing and reminds her it's still daytime. Chimera turns to Jean and, recognizing her, addresses her as the stupid pig knight and tells her to leave and not disturb the private world of her and her fiancé, Xiaoshang. Jean shouts at Chimera, calling her shameless, and calls her an old stinky bat, making Chimera angry and causing Jean to ask what did you say. Jean repeats the insult, calling Chimera stinky and an old bat, while Chimera calls her stupid pig knight back, and they both stare at each other, shooting daggers. Xiaoshang gets fed up with their arguments and insults at each other, and he loses it and shouts at them to stop arguing and bellows that he is going to be late. Xiaoshang walks into the school, puffing and sweating, and exclaims he managed to make it on time. He turns over his head and, looking at his bag, he asks whoever is inside if it's okay like that, and a voice from inside the bag answers him, telling him not to worry, reassuring him nothing is likely to happen. Inside the bag is Chimera, smaller in her bat form, who says she is the queen who rules over the entire vampire race, and not the stone-headed one who only knows how to wield a sword, Jean, whom they left at home. Inside the classroom, lost in thought by the window, Xiaoshang is snapped back to reality by Jiang Yuan's call, prompting him to inquire if something is awry. With red cheeks, Jiang Yuan tells Xiaoshang to follow her to the rooftop, claiming she has something to tell him, shocking the other boys in the class.